One of the biggest cons of the phone is the amount of distraction that comes with it. You send your son off to go do a chore and you don't hear from him for 30 minutes and you're wondering, what in the world is he doing? And then you find him standing in the closet in the middle of reaching for a towel because something on the phone has distracted him for the past 25 minutes.
True story.
That's an actual true story.
One of the topics that we have on others to talk about are the idea of giving children cell phones, and at what age that's appropriate. There's a lot of social pressures that go into it, especially as we talk, like tied to lifestyle. How's your experience? How's your perspective been shaped on the idea of giving kids cell phones?
I would say there's really no way to get around your kid having a cell phone. So it's not really should they have one. It's more so, at what age do you provide your kid with a phone? Our daughter needed it because she was playing 2 sports, and they got to call you after they finish the sports so you can pick them up. That's necessary. You need that. With our 2 boys, I think they got them around the same time, which is earlier than our daughter did, who's 7 years ahead of them. And I believe they got them, I want to say, was it around 4th grade? It was either around 4th grade or they started asking for it around 4th grade. If they started asking for it around 4th grade, we kept telling them, no, just because your friends have it doesn't mean you need it, right? And I think it got to a point where both of the boys were playing soccer. And while we did drop them off, there were times when we felt like we need them to be able to communicate with us. So we did end up getting them cell phones.
So what are some of the hazards of it then? I think it's important to flesh out what are the cons.
The cons to me are huge. Looking back at the 18-year-old that just left the house, one of the biggest cons of the phone is the amount of distraction that comes with it, right?
Big time.
So you send your son off to go do a chore and you don't hear from him for 30 minutes and you're wondering, what in the world is he doing? And then you find him standing in the closet in the middle of reaching for a towel because something on the phone has distracted him for the past 25 minutes.
True story.
That's an actual true story. So I think the biggest issue with phones and kids is their inability to prioritize. I don't mind you having a phone, but it shouldn't keep you from putting one foot in front of the other. You shouldn't be watching your phone while you're brushing your teeth. Some things should just come first. Common sense should come before the phone.
Yeah.
And in teenage era, that just doesn't happen. And that's unfortunate. I think another con that comes with phones is social media, which is, can work for you. And it can also work, really hard against you. Social media was, for us, a bit of an issue with our kids. Probably more so, we didn't have many bullying issues or anything like that, but probably more so just the gaming that happens on phones and their lack of attention because of the phone.
You touched on, to me, the 2 big issues. And to take the first one a step further, which I categorize as distraction.
Yeah.
You've already got ADHD as a thing that impacts kids' ability to stay on task. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, meaning you have to be moving, hence the fidget spinners and stuff. You have to be stimulated in order to stay mentally on one task. So I was talking to Uncle Juwan, my uncle, and he was talking about a child in our family who thrived during the pandemic, being at home for education. And his point was, I can't focus in the classroom as well as I can focus at home because I notice every single thing and the kids are too distracting.
Yeah. Too many inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For him to be able to say that, I think is incredible.
I thought so too.
Right. So you have that. You have the kids who have already attention deficit issues. And then you add, here's a telephone. And if it was just a telephone, if it was just a thing for...
That rang.
Yeah. That it rings when someone is calling you and you pick up and say hello, then it would work for after practice. You need to pick me up. Hey, Mom, we're wrapping up practice now. Can you come get me?
Right.
It would be work. But phones aren't that.
Right.
Even when you try to dumb it down. So before we started handing down our old phones, when we got new phones, I believe there was an iPod Touch. It's the wrong exchange. You think you're doing better by getting an iPod Touch for the kid at the time because you're saying, okay, I don't have to take on this bill. I can just get this device, pay for the device one time, and they can use Wi-Fi, and they can FaceTime me, they can call me, they can send me text messages. Great. But you've also delivered to them every app, possibly installing apps, possibly getting texts from the whole world, and notifications on every single app. Bling, 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 bling.
Yeah. The notifications are an issue, most definitely.
Yeah. So you delivered distraction, huge distraction, without even the phone capability.
Yeah. The other thing is that the phone and the lack of phone. So you decide, listen, okay, you're going to do your homework, but I'm going to take your phone while you do your homework. That in and of itself is a distraction to them. The fact that I no longer have my phone and what is happening on my phone while I'm not with it is a distraction.
Right.
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and I'm really not sure the way around it. Luckily, we are done with our kids in terms of that age that we have to deal with it. As an 18-year-old and 19-year-old, it's up to them to figure out how they're going to deal with their phones and let life take its course that way.
There's a lot of
that's
pressure.
Difficult. I can't even imagine, like with Demi, our oldest, yes, there were phones, but there really wasn't social media at the time with her. And so with our two boys came cell phones and social media. So like for people that have younger kids, there is something coming. We don't know what it is. Just like we didn't know social media was coming, like something else is coming. I can't imagine having to deal with phones, social media, and whatever else is coming.
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit of a departure. When we got our latest phone, we got the iPhone 12. The guy at Starbucks, or maybe it was one of the ladies at Starbucks, was like, oh, is that the 12? How do you like it? My answer was,
it's a phone.
I can make phone calls on it.
Right.
I can text people, and I can take pictures.
Yeah.
And just to say that, to get to that point, pictures, the camera is the thing that moves phones forward for me. It's the reason I get a new phone. It's because the camera has evolved, so I can take even better pictures of things that happen that matter to me.
Yeah.
And so that's another part of kids' lives. So to kind of get us to the point of where I'm trying to take us, if you were to advise someone whose kids are coming to that age where they're looking for a phone, based on your experience, what would you advise? Like, how do you navigate it? I've got some points on that. What have you got?
Wow. It's so difficult because you don't want your kids to feel like I'm the only person who doesn't have a phone. You know what I'm saying? Fourth grade, it just seems there's no reason for you to have a phone in fourth grade. Maybe sixth grade, and maybe have rules where if you have a phone, then you also are involved in extracurricular activities. So it is a bonus for your bonus efforts in terms of you're not just doing school, you're also involved in clubs, and you're involved in maybe community service, and you're involved in school. I'm not school, but sports. So I'm building an athlete. Other ways that you are using your time, so that when you do have a phone, you really don't have a lot of time to use it and to be using all of the meaningless apps that come with it, because you're busy doing more productive work in clubs, in community service and in sports.
Yeah. I forget a lot of the stuff because we were just so bombarded with brain cell zapping activities with kids because they were close together and a lot was going on.
Yes.
But I do know this. When the kids got their phones, and this is part of my advice, I did use all of the parental controls.
Yes, we did.
Right? Like I set up the phone. If you want to install an app other than what I've installed in the phone, then you have to request
you have to ask me. Yeah.
And Apple, and probably Android as well, has a thing where it says, hey, your son requested to install this app.
Yeah.
And I kept that up until they were, like too old for that.
Yeah, but it was necessary.
Yeah. Additionally, on the browser, you can block adult content. Also I had the spam protector on the phone that you can purchase from the cellular company, and also I had my finger on the data button. Meaning, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're somehow wilding out. I turn that whole thing into a brick, and they can only make phone calls. And if I want to turn it off, I can do it remotely. And that was a power that I needed to flex to let you know that almost at the carrot and the rod, there's an incentive to being in line and a penalty to being out of line.
Yeah.
And so I would say to parents, if I were advising based on my experience, when you deem that it's time for your child to have a phone because they spend significant time out of the house and they need to be in communication with you guys, get them a phone, but engage the parental controls.
Yeah,
Make sure that
absolutely.
you set it up. Don't just hand them the thing in the box.
Right.
You set it up. You install the apps that you want installed. And there are groups online of parents who are concerned equally about raising kids in the tech world. Seek out these groups and look for best practices. You know, there's some pros to having a phone. And I know where my kids are most of the time.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
That's another one to install, though. Find My iPhone, so you can always find your kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I loved that feature.
It's a tough answer. There's no pure answer, but don't look for the grand slam. Take the base hits.
Right.
That's the deal.
I definitely think the advice of, yes, give them the phone, not in fourth grade, but give them the phone with restrictions that you impose on the phone. Definitely.
True
That's
indeed.
huge. Yeah.
Agreed.